Well, if you were wondering before, you're sure now. It's the offseason.
You are Locked On Nebraska, your daily Nebraska Cornhuskers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Good morning, everybody, and thanks for making Locked On Nebraska your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers could get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins.
All right, welcome in. I am Mitch Sherman from The Athletic. Connor Happer of 1620 The Zone is with me as always. It is a Thursday episode of the Locked On Nebraska podcast. We are back after a one-day hiatus. Thanks for your patience in waiting for this episode. It's our third of the week. Connor and I have both been traveling. In fact, we're both still traveling. Connor is stationed in Ohio, calling some baseball games. I am in New York City for meetings with my coworkers at The Athletic. We've been talking about college football and college basketball all week here. And now we're going to talk about specifically Nebraska football and why Nebraska football was in the news on Wednesday for an interview that Matt Rhule did last week that we covered on this show. We went through what Matt Rhule said in his interview with Husker Online.
I think, Mitch, the important thing to mention here, specifically, we both watched the interview in its entirety, which Sean, Robin, and Sipple did. Well, it was just Sean and Sipple that they did. And we both went through it and combed through it to see if there was anything interesting to pull out of there that we should talk about on the podcast. And we both decided, there was a thing or two that we could probably use. And
not this though.
Not that at all.
So here's what happened on Wednesday. Ari Wasserman, another On3 personality. Ari is a former coworker of mine, friend of mine, I will say, full disclosure, and podcaster, columnist for On3. He listened to the same interview and came away with a bit of a different take because there was a spot in the interview where Matt Rhule was asked by Steve Sipple about how he viewed the future of the playoff. And we all know playoff expansion is a thing that's being discussed. And Rhule said, the more spots, the better, man. Make that thing 40 and let's go. And then he laughed, and Sean and Sipple laughed. And we can all agree, including Ari, that is a joke. That was a joke. Rhule is not advocating for a 40-team college football playoff.
That's good.
He then went on to explain why it's so difficult to get into the playoff and how the Big Ten schedule, 9 games, makes things hard on teams like Nebraska, and that if they do decide to expand the playoff, Rhule believes to 14 or 16 teams. Rhule believes that is a good thing. Are we following? Is this how you saw this thing unfolding yesterday?
I'm glad you have the timeline of events down because I did not see it unfolding really at all.
Okay.
But I kind of was playing catch up at the end of the day. People were texting me, like my coworkers and people in the media were texting me. They were like, "Wait do you see this crap?" And I'm like, "All right, this sounds great." And yeah, it hasn't really disappointed so far, as Mitch will explain.
So then Ari, who by his own admission gets excited about things. He has a big personality. He has hot takes. That's just kind of who he is. He's also a very good writer. Ari wrote, "For anyone advocating for an expanded CFP or a lower threshold to get into the postseason, it sounds so soft. Instead of making the entrance to the 12-team field more relaxed, how about you actually raise the standard of your program so it is worthy of acceptance in the current system? And if and when you do make the 12-team field, how much more gratifying will it feel having accomplished that?"
Okay, so let's stop here because this is a very important moment. He is right about what he's saying. He's not wrong about what he's saying, but he's directing his anger at the wrong person, a person who, I mean, Rhule had been. Now let's go back even further, Mitch. Like Rhule was an advocate for playoff expansion, right? Just as his predecessor was, and expansion to a certain point, right? To get to where we're at right now, or where we may go in next year when the new college football playoff contract is reworked and there's 14 or 16 teams in that thing. I think Rhule is in support of that. And he's also talked a lot about how the Big Ten needs to get more spots in and because they're the better conference and all those things. And that has drawn the ire of many because of Nebraska's standing nationally as a program. And so Ari's not wrong. Don't make the playoff 40 teams just to give everybody access, but that is absolutely not what Matt Rhule was saying.
Right. To follow this up, and I think this is where it kind of went off the rails a bit, and it's probably part of why people got excited. So people out there on Twitter, they kind of love some media on media crime. Like that's pretty fun stuff for people in the public and even people in the media to witness it. So Sean Callahan, publisher of the On3 site for Nebraska, who conducted the interview with Matt Rhule, he commented, retweeting Ari's post. Ari's post said, instead of soft comments about the college football playoff reform, how about Matt Rhule and others just get better? That's catchy. And so Sean says to Ari, you are way out of context here. We did the interview and nothing Matt Rhule said was in this context. He was completely joking. Anyone that watches it could pick up on that. Well, at that point, Ari got besieged by Nebraska fans, as you can expect. Nebraska fans on Nebraska fans on social media like nothing more than to go after someone who they believe to have disrespected or mistreated one of theirs. So Sean gave them the green light to go ahead and do that. And I think Ari was getting it before Sean Callahan came out with the post, but it intensified after that. I did reach out to Ari to poke him. I poked him a bit because that's the relationship that basically everyone has with Ari, everyone who's worked with him. And I said, why have you made all of Nebraska mad? And
great question.
He said, read it and let me know. People are freaking out. I'm not going to go too much more into my conversation with Ari because that's kind of private. And that's the point that Ari had was everybody read my column. Yeah, the headline said this and I made a bold statement but please read my column because I promise you it's reasonable. It is reasonable, but that's not the way this works. Like people do read this column is behind a paywall. I hope you subscribe to On3 and read that. I hope you subscribe to The Athletic, subscribe to everything. Great. But not everyone does. Not everyone does. And people do sometimes just read the cliff notes and read the headlines. And that's what happened here. And that's why Ari ended up fighting off Nebraska fans who believed that he thinks Matt Rhule is incredibly soft. I will say, I do not believe Matt Rhule is incredibly soft. I do not believe Matt Rhule was looking for the easy way out when it came to the future of the playoff. Ari did roll back to the storyline about Nebraska dropping the Tennessee from its non-conference series. He said he bit his tongue about that earlier, but it falls into the same category of why don't you just be good? Look, Matt Rhule is doing everything that he thinks that he needs to do in an imbalanced college football system in order to put his team in position to compete for championships. Period.
So, what I have a question. Where did this come from? What, like, we know the interview happened several days ago at this point. And then it just pops up randomly out of the blue and it creates.
What came across Ari's radar a bit late and whatever. He lives on a different schedule and he's not following Nebraska minute by minute as he shouldn't. with his job as a national personality. I mean, he's got his podcast with Andy Staples, and
but like it was the On3, the crazy On3 account that does all of the graphics that say random words on them that just like randomly pulled it out of the blue, and then all of a sudden it creates this thing, and then by the end of it, an On3 writer is saying, come read my column. It's also behind a paywall. It's very interesting. And
are you saying that the On3 aggregated itself before Ari then picked up on it?
It seems like.
Okay, I don't know the order of events there. I thought Ari picked up on it. He saw he was he's doing a sweep of what's going on nationally, what's in the news. Oh, Matt Rhule talked to Sean and Sip at my company. I'm going to go check out that interview, and then boom. He said they want a 40, okay. And then it went from there. But you could be right. It could have been noticed by somebody at On3, and then Ari picked up on that. I'm not sure.
I'm looking at the On3 account from yesterday at 2:54 p.m. This is probably 1:54 p.m. Central Time. We're in the Eastern Time Zone. Both Mitch and I are. And it had the quote, and then I think that was the one that was quoted by Ari. And this, by the way, this post has been community noted by Twitter. And, and it says Matt Rhule was joking when he said it, and then it did the clip. So yeah, a lot going on here.
Ari's initial post about soft comments and was posted at 5:05 Eastern Time. Yeah, I think you're right. I think On3 caught wind of it. Somebody in their content management, whatever, production, whatever they want to call it at that company. And then Ari latched onto that. So the end of his column, let's come back and talk about the end of his column.
Good idea.
Because I think that's where he maybe made some amends. And he also talked to Matt Rhule last night. We'll discuss that too when we come back after this.
But first, a word from our friends at the FanDuel Sportsbook, and the NBA playoffs are in full swing. Actually, I would call close to winding down. As Mitch knows, watching a Knicks Pacers Eastern Conference Finals game at a bar in New York City, watching Tyrese Halliburton pull a Reggie Miller last night. I mean,
lots of gasps.
Yeah. So you can't wager on whether Tyrese Halliburton is going to gesture toward his throat, but you can wager on player props and live betting. It's so huge in the FanDuel Sportsbook world, and we're giving you an opportunity to get on the action and get ahead of the game early. How does $200 in bonus bets sound? If you're signing up today, place that first $5 bet, and if it wins, you're going to get $200 in bonus bets. So maybe you have a lean on who is going to win the next game of the series, or who is going to win the finals, or how do you feel like each individual player is going to do throughout the series? SGA, Ant-Man, Tyrese Halliburton, and Jalen Brunson, just to name one off of each team. If you got that, place that first $5 bet, and $200 in bonus bets is coming your way if you win. A reminder again to make every moment more with FanDuel, your official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, welcome back, everybody. Connor Happer, Mitch Sherman with you, talking about non-traversies of the offseason as we're here in late May. Our apologies for missing yesterday's episode. We called it a in transit day, but we'll make it up to you guys at some point. Don't worry, as we headed to the summer, and we were gifted with this beautiful pile of content going into today, which is great. So let's put a bow on this one and finish it up in Ari's column. And then it ended finally, of course, with the tweet, I believe, from Ari Wasserman, who said that he had a great conversation with Matt Rhule, and then everything wound up from there. I thought
he played it like a true media person who was capitalizing on the intense fandom of a rabid group of people. And honestly, like, I'm sure his On3 people are
Loving
are
it.
happy that he's generating all this talk in May about a comment that was made a week ago over a subject that, I mean, look, Matt Rhule's not deciding how many teams are in the college football playoff, even if he felt that 40 should be in there, which he does not. So the end of Ari's column is this. He says, for once, wouldn't it just be nice to hear a coach say they want to play an extra tough game because it gives his program an opportunity to be excellent? Wouldn't it be great for anyone to acknowledge that winning a big-time non-conference game against a great opponent gives you more margin for error with losses later on? Wouldn't it be great to hear that you crave competition against the best because it brings out the best in your players and your standard? That's what I want out of my eventual national champion. That's what I want from the teams who make the CFP field with hopes of claiming the sport's most elusive trophy. Excellence, not excuses.
Yeah, which I once again agree with wholeheartedly. But there is a story that is happening right now this week that is out there that is such an easier target for so much more of an easy target for that take, which I agree with, by the way. And it's that USC is trying to get out of its long-standing, nearly 100-year series with Notre Dame. You know, like in all these teams that are playing non-conference or canceling non-conference series that have been scheduled for years and years and years, Nebraska being included in that conversation, which I know was mentioned there in the column. Like, great, let's do that. Let's take a look at. So I like what I'm saying is, if Nebraska fans feel at times, and we have intense, I think maybe more intense reactions to these things around here, because I think we're hyper aware and sensitive to what's being said about Nebraska, because frankly, Nebraska is not in the national news very often or relevant very often on the football field. So I think we're hypersensitive to the things that people say about Nebraska. And so I think when you look at all this, the scope of this in a week or so, where USC is trying to get out of a series with Notre Dame and Nebraska's getting picked on because a coach made a joke on a podcast, like, I understand why Nebraska fans feel like they're being picked on a little bit. It felt like there was a lot easier of a target out there, but it's really a non-issue altogether because all of this is nonsense, and it's May 22nd.
I'm reading through Ari's Twitter feed, which is a big giant mess, and oh, here it is. 11 hours ago, so this was at 8:00 Central yesterday. He says, just had a wonderful call with Matt Rhule. Great guy and great convo. Can't wait to talk about it more on our show tomorrow. Here's the link. And then they made the story, the original column. Man, on three's playing this well. They made the story free. Yeah. So if you're complaining about how you can't read it because you don't want to pay to subscribe, go read it for free. And then you can listen to Ari and Andy talk about this on YouTube. They are doing what we're doing. And Ari's going to talk about his conversation from last night with Matt Rhule, which I am very curious about. I will admit, I briefly asked Ari about it on text, and I won't spill any details. I'll let him do that on his podcast. But what a wonderful, crazy, stupid May storyline. If we weren't talking about that, we might be talking today about how I walked down to Madison Square Garden last night at halftime or around halftime of the Knicks-Pacers game, and
popped into NY Pizza Suprema, great pizza place.
Yeah, popped into a pizza place. Like, I sent you a picture of Madison Square Garden from like the southwest corner of the arena, and you said to me, "Oh, you're by NY Pizza Suprema," and I said, "I was just texting you from inside Pizza Suprema." There are 8 million places to get a piece of pizza in Manhattan, and I don't really know why I picked that one. I went out and was hungry, and I wanted to go down and check out the I wasn't going to get into Madison Square Garden unless I wanted to pay $17,000. So I just wanted to walk around, and there were a few people out there. It was a rainy night, lots of security, more so than people. I guess at the end of the game, when the Halliburton drama was going on, there were more people outside, and it was wild, but not when I was there around halftime. I did get a piece of pizza. We would be talking instead, though, about how I ate a piece of Hawaiian pizza, which you did not approve of.
Oh, hey, that's a controversy in and of itself. And we could spend tomorrow's podcast on this. You should write a column.
It looked good in the case. They only serve pizza there, by the way. No, you can't get no breadsticks, no salad. Like they do one thing.
No calzones or anything like pizza. That. It's good great. Place. And they have a random picture of Anthony Bourdain just sitting in the middle of the place, which is a great touch. So Mitch, okay, so speaking of how the media works and stuff like this, if you wrote a column
pineapple pizza, talk about it.
Yeah. No, if you wrote a column today and you put it up on The Athletic for some reason, somebody allowed you to do this, and you wrote, here's why pineapple pizza is the best pizza. Mm-hmm. I would click on that article. I would click on that story.
You shamed me a bit, and I felt for a moment a little bit of regret because I am in New York, and come on, it's Hawaiian pizza. I do enjoy Hawaiian pizza. I don't usually get it because my family doesn't like it, and but I saw it there. I wasn't intending to get that, but I saw it, and the pepperoni looked good. The pineapple looked fresh. I said, "Give me a piece of Hawaiian pizza." There was like a meat supreme right above it. If there had been like a pepperoni sausage mushroom, which is kind of my sweet spot, I think I would have probably got that, but it wasn't there in the case ready to be thrown in the oven. So I got pineapple, and I thought it was outstanding. I had a Zabar's everything bagel with lox for lunch. With a couple of colleagues, Stuart Mandel and Seth Emerson, who covers the SEC. Stuart covers national college football, of course. We took the subway up to the Upper West Side and got Zabar's over lunch yesterday. So
great job by
you. It's been a good trip for food purposes.
Did you last time I was in New York for the Big East tournament? I took the train down to Katz to get some pastrami. Is that in the cards today?
No, I have some work to do today, and I got a flight at 2:00. Katz's is going to have to come next time. Last time I was here, I went there. I mean, that is a full day's food in one meal. Katz's Deli, and I've had it several times. There's a Junior's Deli right here in Times Square, which has some good reviews. I don't think I'm going to make it to that. Zabar's is my deli pick for this trip. I did take a walk on the High Line Trail at the recommendation of my wife, who was here in March. And it was outstanding, although it opened at 7 a.m. and I was standing outside of the trail at 6 yesterday. But really cool way to see the city from an elevated perspective.
So you're dealing with a very unique experience. I'd like to tell you just a little bit about my unique experience for just a second before we talk about Nebraska baseball and softball to finish the show.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm at the Big East baseball tournament in Mason, Ohio, which is just northeast of Cincinnati. I actually drove through. The Cincinnati airport is in Kentucky, so you go through downtown.
Yep.
The Bengals were practicing or doing some sort of mini camp or whatever, and you kind of just get to drive by it, which is cool. You see Great American Ballpark, might catch a game tomorrow. But this tournament, which is a 4-team tournament, is one of the most unique things in college sports, I would have to think. You go to the ballpark, and it kind of just sits in the middle of a large campus. It's a pharmaceutical company. It's called Prasco. And there's a baseball field and basically a carnival that surrounds the baseball field, concession stands, tents. And the thing is, you go up to one of the concession stands and they're like, it's hot dogs and hamburgers and everything you see at the concession stand, but you just tell them what you want and then they give it to you. There's no transaction. It's all free. And the hospitality is amazing.
Who's financing this?
There's no tickets. There's no food, or there's no paying for food. It's just like, come on out. Enjoy the ball game if you want to. It's kind of rainy and chilly here, but enjoy the ball game. And you go through the carnival ride, or they have like blow up stuff, and everybody just has a great time. And that's the whole. It's one of the, and the hospitality is incredible. It's one of the more unique things I've ever been to.
Reminds me of the beer at Aviva Stadium in Dublin, Ireland, a couple years ago when the credit card machines were down and they just started giving it away.
Yeah,
but the credit card machines aren't down there in Mason, Ohio. It's the gift. It's a gift from somebody who someone's paying for it, but it's not anyone who's attending the games. Very cool to hear about that. Let's talk about another baseball tournament, but first take a break and we'll come back and discuss what's going on back in Omaha. All right, I can take this. Nebraska baseball received a gift on Tuesday night via Michigan State and its right fielder Parker Pico. Ooh.
See, just throw a couple more out there and see if you get it.
That's a quality piece of podcasting right there. So the Huskers were down 4-3 in the bottom of the ninth, 2 outs, runner on second base, and Joshua Overbeek hits a line drive that turned into basically a routine catch for Michigan State's right fielder. He catches the ball. Nebraska's season is effectively over because the Huskers will play a meaningless game at that point on Friday against Oregon and then go off and begin their summer. Well, the right fielder dropped the ball. It amazingly squirted out of his glove. Huskers score. Robbie Bolin walks it off in the 10th with a hit. Nebraska lives to see another day. We'll play Oregon tomorrow on Friday night at what I expect to be an energized Charles Schwab Field. The crowd was relatively small on Tuesday, maybe 3,000-4,000 behind the plate. But I don't think that's going to be the case on Friday night when Nebraska and Oregon play. Oregon, of course, has the advantage of doing nothing today with its pitching staff. They can pitch their second baseman if they so choose, because the Oregon-Michigan State game is meaningless. So, I mean, they probably don't want a quad 3 loss or whatever that would be. But yeah, the Ducks are going to host a regional and probably be a national seed.
Yeah, that's what it looks like
when the picks come out Monday. So
also, you make a good point, Mitch. Though, like you don't want to take a bad loss on a neutral site when you're probably right on the edge of being a national seed, like one of the top 8 teams in the country at this point. But I would expect it to be, going pretty good at the Chuck Box tomorrow night. So Nebraska is going to have to, from a pitching perspective. I mean, it's tournament time, so you're probably going to be. I mean, we'll see what they do. They're going to get a couple days of rest in between. So
could go back to Ty Horn if they want, who started Tuesday night and just pitched a couple innings, or Tucker Timmerman did the same thing in relief. So
whenever you feel like you get out at this point, I think you probably do it. So, and there will be many pitching changes. So Nebraska will have the crowd on their side, roll the ball out there and see what happens. You're still alive until someone says you're not.
So 2 of the pools have been decided after 2 days because the top seed won, and there can't be a 2-0 team in Pool C, where Iowa is the winner and on to the semifinals on Saturday. And then Pool B, where UCLA is the winner and on to the semifinal Saturday against Iowa. The other semifinal will be the winner of the Nebraska-Oregon game, and then the winner of the Penn State-USC game, which is scheduled for today at the Chuck. So 4 games today at the Chuck. 3 of them are completely meaningless, and then, and then you have the Penn State-USC game, which is currently set for 2 p.m. There was some weather adjustments. I guess there's rain coming into Omaha. I'll enjoy that when I get home today. But Penn State, USC for the pool championship in the D pool, and the winner of that gets Nebraska, Oregon on Saturday. Final is set for Sunday, so Nebraska has to win 3 more games to hear its name called on Monday, Memorial Day, in the 64-team NCAA field. Any thoughts on Nebraska and its miraculous start to the tournament?
Well, I mean, that's what it takes to win in the postseason. You need a little bit of luck. You need a couple bounces to go your way. And well, I think, I mean, it's a baseball game, right? And Nebraska has shown, at various points this year that they can raise their level against the best type of teams that they see. So in a 1-game fight for your life scenario, with the crowd behind you, I'm not like I can't definitively tell you that Nebraska is going to lose to Oregon tomorrow night. So I think they have a pretty good shot, and we'll see how it lines up.
Yeah, Nebraska's been very good against top teams. Against Vanderbilt, that was a win. Huskers pushed LSU, and the level of competition is not really indicative of Nebraska's success or failure through this season. They've lost to some lower division teams, so we'll see. Oregon's going to have things set up nice. Oregon's a very good team, and what I'd imagine the Ducks will pitch their ace, their Friday night pitcher on Friday night at Charles Schwab Field. So that's something to keep an eye on. If Nebraska makes it through to Saturday or Sunday, Connor, maybe we'll do an extra pod. You're still going to be traveling. I will be back in the state of Nebraska. I'm not going to be able to attend the Friday night Nebraska Oregon, but I'll be out at the Chuck at some point this weekend if Nebraska continues to play.
I may be at the Reds Cubs game on Friday night if things go well today for Creighton, but that's we're living one day at a time. It's postseason baseball. Should we talk about Jordy Ball before we get out of here?
Sure. It's the Locked On Jordy Ball podcast. So let's just mention that Nebraska softball open super regional play at Tennessee Friday, 6 p.m. Central. The game will be on ESPN2. You can expect this entire best of 3 series to revolve around 2 players, that being Jordy Ball, the Nebraska All-American, who will be in the circle for the Huskers, probably for the entirety of the Super Regional Series, as long as the games are close. And then Carlin Pickens is Tennessee's ace pitcher. She is the SEC Pitcher of the Year, the Softball America National Pitcher of the Year. Carlin Pickens has a national best ERA of 0.90 with a 22-8 record. So Jordy will be up to the challenge. I think we know that about her postseason attitude, and should be fun. So we'll have to tune in on Friday night.
I'll tell you what,
Those
running
games are at the same time, by the way. Nebraska, Oregon, and Nebraska, Tennessee.
Wow. Running into a pitcher who, just is one of the best in the country. It's you don't mind that against a team where Jordy's going to do her thing in the circle as well. And Nebraska's a team that hits a bunch of home runs, so maybe they run into one and they find a way to squeak out a 1-run game. But we're thinking, like one run really, really, really going to be important in a super regional like that.
Yeah. All right. Well, the winner heads to Oklahoma City and likely gets the Sooners, the big bad Oklahoma Sooners in the first round of WCWS play. Oklahoma, of course, is Jordy Ball's former school and will have to do their part in their own super regional in Norman this weekend. But that one may be a formality. So we are now softball experts. We have done our part and talked about softball again. It's like the 5th straight show. We'll continue to do it until Nebraska is either knocked out of the tournament or wins the national championship. So
that's right.
There you go. Thanks for making Locked On Nebraska your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the Portal Show. Brian Smith has the latest rumors, portal entries, and signings. Be the most informed fan on the rapid changes to the college football landscape. Find the Portal on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts.